Hello, I'm Lisa Tyler. I'm the host of Senior Connections. This is our monthly look at all things related to older adults and their families and friends. And we like to have it for any of our viewers who are 60 and over or caring for people or interested in people of that age. This program is a service of Senior Resources, which is your local area agency on aging for Muskegon, Oceana, and Ottawa counties. And every month we come and we talk about various issues ranging from long-term care options, Medicare, prescriptions, hospice, which is what we're talking about today, and a lot more things, trying to help you navigate what can be a very confusing network of services and programs for older adults, because there's a lot out there. So today I am thrilled to have back with me my guest, Lisa Cummins, who is the Executive Director of Harbor Hospice, and Lori Goudie, who is Community Engagement Specialist at Harbor Hospice. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. It's been a little more than a year and a half since we had you both on the show, and you were both fairly new to your jobs then. So let's just refresh our viewers, who I don't expect to remember back to late 2017, about when you came to Harbor Hospice and what your background is. Lisa, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I've been with Harbor Hospice about 2.5 years. So when I did this about a year and a half ago, I was Lisa McMichael, and now
that's one of the big changes since then.
So now I'm Lisa Cummins. I've been working in healthcare for about 30 years. Started my career as an occupational therapist. I really wanted to talk about what really created my passion for hospice, and it was the position I had prior to coming here, working at Marywood Health Center in Grand Rapids, which my background has been mostly in long-term care, skilled nursing, and rehab. So I was the administrator, executive director at a facility on the campus with the Grand Rapids Dominican Sisters, and it was all rehab focused, so there was no long-term care there. And one of the things that really stood out to me while I was there, and I really ended up becoming an educator on hospice, was many times people would come for the rehab for that one more try. Let's try to do that one more thing before we decide hospice. Hospice is a difficult choice, and I ended up having a lot of family meetings with people and helping them understand that, you know, when a disease process is taking over at that point, you know, do you really want quantity or quality of life? And, you know, oftentimes doing rehab with people, they would get extremely tired, and, you know, we're doing 2 or 3 hours of rehab with them during the day. The family comes after work to see them. It's like, oh, how come I come see Mom every time and she's sleeping? Well, that's because of what's happening with her. And so really, I think, you know, making those connections and having those conversations really gave me an awareness of how much education is really needed, and people still not really understanding all the benefits of hospice and how that can improve somebody's quality of life at the end.
So you were really preparing for this job without realizing you were preparing for the job, just because of your own interest in seeing what was happening with people.
Exactly.
So this opportunity arose, and it was a perfect time for you to make that transition.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the passion is evident in that.
Thank you.
And Lori, how about you? Remind our viewers. So,
well, I've been in the healthcare industry for about 13 years. Prior to this position, I worked for Finney Health Network, which is a division off of Mercy Health Partners here in Muskegon. And my role there was provider relations, so I educated the provider offices on various insurance plans, you know, anything that was new in the community, any services that were available, I would help educate the community on that. And really enjoyed what I was doing. And my father-in-law became ill, and he had COPD and then was declining pretty quickly. And his provider said, how about hospice? And my husband and I looked at each other, we're like, all right, what does this entail? Because we never had to deal with hospice ever in our lives. And so he told us a little bit about, you know, what it's all about. And when my father-in-law finally made the decision to enter into hospice, you know, he picked Harbor Hospice. And it was an amazing experience. When I would go over and visit him, the nurse was so gentle, and the caretakers, the CNAs, would come in, the nurses' aides, and they were so gentle with bathing him and talking to him and talking to my mother-in-law, who they both were in their early 90s. So it was hard to understand, hard to fathom for them. So, you know, we had the chaplain that would come in, and they were very, very religious. So, you know, he would pray with them. And to have all the family there and to answer all of our questions and make us feel that, you know, this is not a scary thing. We were all very, very scared coming into this, like we didn't know what to expect. But having that education and having someone there to answer the questions, having that phone call every, that call that you can call every 24 hours, was just amazing. Mm-hmm. So that being said, when this opportunity came up at Harbor Hospice, I thought about it and I said, I've got to do this. I said, I've got to help educate the community that hospice is not so scary, mm-hmm. and that there's quality. A lot of patients have quality of life, and we have proof in a lot of our patients that have been in our services. So, you know, it's a special thing, and it's something that we can offer someone at the end of their life. Mm-hmm. So
it's a great service, and I mean, I think I've shared probably with both of you individually that way back in 1982, when I was in my first year of college, so do the math, you can figure out my age there. My grandfather lived in the Upper Peninsula, and he was the first patient of a hospice up there. And so my dad had seen, I mean, being 8 hours away, because we lived in Ionia, could see what that did for him and how that helped my grandma. And then my parents lived in Ionia, and my dad helped start the hospice that started there in Ionia because he had seen the importance of that. So it's super, and then it helped, that same hospice that he had helped start, helped him at the end of his life, you know, almost 11 years ago now, and I saw what a gift that was for my mother. So I always, for years and years, have been a huge proponent of hospice in general, have used services of Harbor Hospice in workplaces when we've had some things going on, and I just think it's always important to talk to people because, as I always, you know, we joke about in our advanced care planning discussions, none of us are getting out of here alive. Yeah. So we all would like to think that we can try to have it be as smooth and peaceful and departing this life the way we want to. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk some more about that today, not to get all philosophical and emotional or whatever at the beginning, but let's talk about Harbor Hospice. Lisa, tell us a little bit about the mission and history.
Well, Harbor Hospice has been serving our community along the lakeshore here, starting in Muskegon County for over 36 years. We are the only hospice that is still considered community-based and have been for all of these years. So I think that says something about who we are and what we do. It's not in our mission statement, but our mission is to serve our community and to serve along the lakeshore the best that we possibly can. We served our very first patient in 1983, and today our average daily census is running about 150.
Oh, wow.
So we've had a lot of growth and a lot of changes through the years. You know, hospice continues to be one of those things that the community continually needs education on. If people have had the experience and they share it, then that really makes an impact on people really understanding what hospice can do. And now we serve 5 counties, which is Muskegon County, Ottawa, Newaygo, Oceana, and Mason County.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you think about that. You say since 83, and my grandfather was in 82, that started. I mean, you know, it just, in some ways it seems like it's been around forever, but it really hasn't. I mean, that was such a new concept in the early 80s, and people really didn't understand what was involved in all of that, and now we've got a lot more services. So let's talk a little bit about some of the services that you offer.
So we offer a lot of different services, but I'll talk first about the hospice services and what's entailed in that. And we do have, obviously, the nursing part of that. We have spiritual care. We have social services. We have bereavement services. And one of the things that I did want to mention about our bereavement services is, and also advanced care planning. Let me make sure I say that too. Because with palliative care and advanced care planning, those two things kind of go hand in hand, and I'll talk a little bit more about palliative care in a few minutes. But we also have a couple of programs that are very valued by our organization and by the community, and one of those is Camp Courage.
I was hoping we were going to talk about that, because we're in the summer season, so that's coming up.
Matter of fact, next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday is Camp Courage. Okay. And so what that program is for children who have had that loss. And gosh, the last couple of years we've just had great turnout as far as children being able to participate in that. And we're really glad that we can be there for the kids because, you know, sometimes their losses aren't just that somebody passed away due to an illness. Sometimes they're traumatic losses. And they could be, you know, deaths that they've witnessed that, you know, you would hope no child would ever have to witness something like that. But our Camp Courage has been very successful, and we've had, you know, we have continued services for those children too through our bereavement program and the Skolnick Healing Center once they've gone through that program.
And they don't have to have had loved ones who came through they don't have to have used your services before, correct?
That is correct. It could be
Just
any type of loss.
And it could be a parent, a grandparent, a dear friend, a neighbor, anybody who's significant that the parent or somebody, guardian, is noticing that they could benefit from that.
Absolutely. And yeah, so that's really important to know because sometimes people do get confused and think, oh, they have to have had a hospice.
I used a different hospice, or we didn't use anything, and so they don't qualify.
And with those traumatic deaths and losses, there usually isn't any type of hospice involved.
Right.
It's just what happens.
Yeah.
So, and the other program I wanted to mention was our We Honor Vets program. We have a great passion for that and believing that vets should get the recognition that they deserve. And, you know, sometimes vets go their whole entire lives, and we found out that nobody really recognized them for the service that they did.
Especially if they were in the Vietnam War.
Especially if they're in the Vietnam War, that's true. And you know, I've been to several of those where we honor them. We do a little ceremony. We do a pinning, and there's one that sticks out to me, and I just want to share this really quickly. And the gentleman and he was, I think he was 97, and he was tearful and so grateful. And the fact of the matter is he said, nobody has really done this for me. Nobody's ever acknowledged and honored the fact of what I did for my country. And we were able to be there to witness that and to give that to him. And that's part of what hospice does too. When you think about at the end of life, people have, you know, not only is it that recognition that he got, but maybe somebody has a bucket wish list that they never got to. And we can help facilitate some of those things, you know, if somebody's able to do that type of thing. And it's something we really promote too. And, you know, that's where if people were able to get the full benefit of hospice services and getting involved in hospice at the appropriate time, and so many times it's just a few days before somebody's passing away that, oh my goodness, we need hospice. But then we've had other experiences where people have been on hospice for 6 months or a year or even more because being on hospice helped them have a better quality of life. And oftentimes people, you know, go on to the treatments and continue chemos or whatever those treatments are, or dialysis, all those different things, you know, to try to keep a person alive. But at the same time, you know, is that giving them the quality of life they deserve, and is that what they wanted, which is really important too.
Right. So I've had lots of conversations with people over the years about not waiting too long if you get a terminal diagnosis. You don't need to, hospice isn't just for the very end of life.
That's right.
It's once you get that diagnosis, right? So let's switch gears a little bit, because I know that you've got a wonderful staff at Harbor Hospice, but you also have a lot of volunteers. So Lori, let's talk about what opportunities are there for people to become engaged with Harbor Hospice.
There's a number of opportunities. We have over 100 volunteers, and they all come to us from different backgrounds. They all have a very special story, and that's what brings them to us. They're passionate about really serving the community in any way that they can because of, you know, the help that they received at whatever stage in their lives they were at. We have a lot of ways that volunteers can help. We have had volunteers, Paula Poole, our volunteer coordinator, she's had volunteers bring in little bracelets that they made to give to patients. They bring in little blankets, you know, lap blankets for our patients. They've done really special stuff that is really special to that patient. We have a lot of opportunities for individuals to work in our offices. We need that help so that our staff can do their job. They'll do anything from clerical stuff to answering, you know, phone calls for families that are grieving, and they can get them to the right department, or they'll call patients that have had a loved one pass away and talk to them and say, we have these services available, if there's a need for the services. So they do offer that to families. We have a massage therapist. She'll do hand massages for patients. We'll do music therapy. If we have someone that loves music, you know, if they have a particular song they like, they'll play that over and over if that's what they want to hear. We have volunteers that have gone and sat with the patient when a family exhausts all their PTO from work. Maybe they just need to get out and maybe have a lunch or dinner and just need a breath of fresh air. They know they have someone there sitting with their loved one until they get back.
And don't forget about our pet therapy.
And the pet therapy.
Oh,
yes.
talk to us about pet therapy. I don't think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Thank you. Pet therapy. We have now 2 pet therapy dogs that will go into people's homes. They go into the facilities and they just visit the patients, and to see the light on their faces, they have that glow for just those couple minutes when those dogs come in. It's just amazing how something so little can give such joy to someone that's, you know, really ailing.
I have a dog that would probably love that because he's a golden retriever and he thinks people are, you know, everybody who comes over is to see him. So, you know, you've got those dogs that have those personalities where they just love being around people and they're not afraid of them. And
They do. And
and they just want you to give them some love, and I can see where that would be great. How long have you had that program?
It's been a couple years now.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's kind of come and gone sometimes too, because, you know, depending on the volunteers and different things that we have. But since our bereavement department really has taken off, we do have one of our counselors that's very passionate about the pet therapy too. She has her own dogs. As a matter of fact, she's utilized her own dogs when the others aren't available for the pet therapy. And, you know, it's really, you know, we just have those couple dedicated people that have really taken a stronghold now in the last couple years.
That's wonderful. So it sounds like there's all kinds of opportunities for people to volunteer and get involved with Harbor Hospice.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be comfortable, because I imagine there are people who think, oh, I don't want to go do that because I'm not comfortable sitting with somebody who's dying. But you've got all kinds of other things that they can do. Bring their skills, make some things that are of comfort.
Play games with them. Just, you know, I remember one particular patient in a facility, he didn't have family very close. So he was very passionate. He was a vet. And so one of our veterans, who is also one of our volunteers, would go and sit with him, and they would talk about way back when and get some of those unresolved feelings off of his chest. And this patient just loved our volunteers' visits. They would talk for like an hour. He would come a couple times a week just to sit with them and talk to them. And I think it really solidifies how special his life was. You know, how he helped the country, and you know, that he was a special person.
Great.
And sometimes it's as simple. We have one person who wants to bake cookies for the residents at our Poppin residence, which I haven't talked about yet. But you know, it's something as simple as that. You know, it's not necessary that she has to come in and talk or meet with anybody. She loves to bake, and we get fresh cookies from her. So.
Wonderful. That's fabulous. So let's talk about the Poppin residence.
Sure. The Poppin residence is a 14-bed hospice residence located here in Muskegon. It's right off Harvey Road on Mount Garfield. That facility has been there for about 15 years.
I was guessing.
Yes, and we actually just did a full refresh, and I really did want to talk about the Poppin. The Poppin was built from our community. It was built all on donations, and it was something that our community desired. They still desire, and they continue to contribute to the program. And matter of fact, we were just able to do a whole refresh of the building to just keep that wonderful, peaceful feeling, keeping it fresh and welcoming, and that project has gone fabulously, by the way. So that's been pretty great. And you know, sometimes people don't quite understand what the Poppin is for. It's not like a nursing home. It's a different level of care. So the Poppin is really for people who maybe they can't be managed at home anymore, you know, towards that, when you're getting much closer to the end of the life, different things happen to people, and, you know, sometimes they just can't, you know, caregivers who are in the home just can't manage, you know, transferring that person anymore, or maybe they're not even able to get up anymore, and that becomes burdensome. So that's what Poppin really is geared to do, is to be there for people that are much more close to the end of life, and sometimes the medical extensiveness of their care becomes way too much to manage in the home as
So
well.
they're not going to be in there for 6 months, like some of the people that you've had. You're probably talking weeks and days in most
Absolutely.
cases.
Yep.
But it's a wonderful asset to have.
It is.
Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about palliative care. You mentioned
Sure.
that earlier because that's something newer that you're delving into, and I don't think we talked about that when we were here, or at least not much.
Right.
So talk to us about what palliative care is and how is it different than your traditional hospice care?
Sure. So palliative care is different than the traditional hospice because it's not geared towards end of life necessarily. Somebody can come onto palliative care services once they have a serious illness that's been diagnosed. So maybe you have CHF or COPD, amongst many other diagnoses. It could be renal failure, different things like that too. And there's a lot of symptom management that goes along with those disease processes. And that's what palliative care is for, is really to help manage the disease process, manage the symptoms that go along with that. It could even be a cancer patient who is getting chemo or radiation, and there's symptoms that come along with the treatment that you're getting. So using chemo, for example, sometimes there's a lot of nausea, and sometimes you get very fatigued, and there's pain sometimes too. And palliative care can actually work alongside of your physician, your oncologist, your specialist, whoever it is, to help you manage those symptoms to continue to live the best quality of life that you
So
can.
there doesn't have to be a terminal diagnosis
No.
like there is with hospice. So it shouldn't be scary to somebody if a doctor referred them to Harbor Hospice for palliative care, because that doesn't mean your death is imminent.
That's correct. That
So
is
it's
correct.
to manage pain and the symptoms that come along with a serious illness.
Definitely.
So talk to us a little bit about how that can improve quality of life. What do you see?
So a lot of things that we see with that. So let's just say that you're having issues where your symptoms are just out of control. Whatever your diagnosis is, that your symptoms are out of control. You're not managing well at home. And what I have seen now, I've seen this on both sides of the spectrum. Working in rehab, I've seen it, and then working in palliative care and hospice. People get stuck in a cycle in the system sometimes. So you have symptoms that are out of control. You go to the ER. You get admitted to the hospital. You get weak because you've had this hospital stay. You end up going to a rehab facility or a skilled nursing facility for rehab. And while you're in that skilled nursing facility, you're getting everything you need. You know, you're getting the rehab to get stronger. You're getting the right meals every day. Your medications are being managed properly. Sometimes at home, those things get a little haywire.
You don't have 24-hour care necessarily because somebody might
Absolutely.
need to go to work, or
Right.
just,
Yeah.
they can't move you the way they need to, or
Right.
there's any number of things.
And sometimes it's
Just
just a
life.
matter that nobody has really sat down with that patient and said, what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? How can we make your life better? And you know what happened, and then they go home, they don't have that resource and that support, and then the cycle starts all over
Right.
again. So it really can help a person manage at home versus ending up in the emergency department because their symptoms are out of control
So
again.
hopefully it's a preventing an emergency department visit.
Yes,
Right.
That would be
definitely.
wonderful.
which most people really don't want to do.
Right.
Right.
And healthcare certainly doesn't want that either. They would prefer to keep that. But most of us, yes, would rather be home.
Yeah.
Whether we're dying or we're just ill and managing that stuff. We're more comfortable that way. We
And
wanna be
sometimes
around
it's
our loved
just,
ones.
it's traumatic to go to the emergency department. If you don't have
Right.
transportation, you have to go by the ambulance. I don't know if
Yeah, there
anybody
is
of you's been in
stress
an
through the
ambulance,
roof, right?
right?
Yeah.
Being in an ambulance ride. I've been one time in my life, and I was a young person when that happened, and holy cow, it
You
was.
still remember it,
I
don't you?
still remember it, and it's scary, and it's uncomfortable. You're kind of bouncing all
Yeah,
over the place in
right.
there. But, and you think about our older adults, and it could be for anybody at any
Right.
age, of course, but that experience of getting transported to the hospital, going through all the emergent stuff, getting to the hospital, then you have to wait. Then there could be the ED could be, the
Right.
department could be
You
full.
get there quickly, but you could be there for hours.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and sometimes the immediate thing gets addressed, but then the core issue is
Right.
not getting addressed. It's kind of just, we're managing it acutely, we're going to get you comfortable right now, but then you go home and don't have that support again.
Right.
So that's what palliative care can
Great.
do. That's different.
All right, well, hopefully our viewers will remember that and keep that in mind. So Lori, what else is new with Harbor Hospice? Any events or any fun things coming up?
Well, we have our one of our big annual fundraisers for the Harbor Hospice Foundation. This year it's going to be Buoys, Boats, and Brews. It's September 28th. It's going to be held at the Muskegon Yacht Club.
Is this different than, because you've had a regatta for a long,
Right.
you used to have a regatta.
It's going to be a two-part this summer.
Okay.
They're still going to have the regatta race in August.
Okay.
And then they're going to have the other event in September.
Okay,
they're
so
gonna-
that's more open for people who aren't serious sailors. They can come
Right.
and embrace things
Right.
sailing related, but you don't have to.
Yeah,
go
they
out in
can
the
come
water.
to both if they like, but
Wonderful.
yeah, the other one would be
Oh, that sounds like
open
fun.
to everybody.
Yeah.
So if you have, there will be more information coming out on that shortly, but if you do have any questions, you can call our main office line, 728-3442.
Okay.
Richard would be the one that you would talk to. He will have any of the details that you need.
Wonderful.
The other really cool event that we have coming up, we're part of, is Senior Community Days. This is really popular in this area. It's a large expo that they can come to. It's from 9 a.m. to 1:30 on August 9th. It's a Friday. They can come in, they can have lunch, they can breakfast, lunch. There's many vendors that they can talk to about any kind of health issues or assisted living.
They get all kinds
communities.
of information.
They get all kinds of information that day. They have, you can get their blood pressure checks, you can do an arts and crafts. We have bird watching. We have the fire department will be there to talk about safety.
Oh, great.
So we have a lot of sessions that they can come to, a lot of, people they can talk about different things. And
That's at Orchard View High School this year,
Orchard
right?
View High School, and it's free. It's free to the community. So you could sign up online, or there's the senior resource books. They're in all the resource books.
It'll come out in Senior Perspectives in the issue that comes out in July. We've already had phone calls at Senior
good.
Resources about it.
It is very
they start
popular.
in May.
Yes.
Because they're like, when is it coming out? And the sign, because we sponsor that. We are always there as well. It'll be in the July issue that'll come out roughly right around the 4th of July. So
Right.
look for it there. But I can't echo that enough. It's 600-700 people who come out
Oh,
that
yes.
day. It's wonderful information. It's really a great way to learn about Harbor Hospice, learn about senior resources, and all kinds of other things that are there in the community. You don't have to be an older adult to come. You can be somebody who's caring or loves somebody who is.
Right.
All kinds of great information out there.
there
So
is.
we really encourage people to come on Friday, August 9th, starting at what time again?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. until...
Registration opens, we say 8:30, but usually we're there and people start
Yes.
coming in by 8.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
event actually starts at 9.
At 9 a.m., so it's a lot of fun.
I forgot to mention
Okay.
one thing about palliative care. Our palliative care social worker also does advanced care planning for advanced directives.
We had her on last month, so we
Yes.
talked quite a bit about, so that
We
was
did.
Andrea who was on,
Yeah,
but
so-
really fabulous things going on there. And, I talk to people all the time, it's really important, no matter what age you are, that you have an advanced directive. But they just gave me the signal that we're just about out of time, so we won't talk about that more. Other than to thank you, Lisa and Lori, for joining me, giving us fabulous information about hospice and palliative care especially.
it was our
You
pleasure.
can find out more about Harbor Hospice by calling 728-3442. Or as always, if you can't remember that, you can always call 211 any time of the day or night, and they will know where to direct you. So thanks for joining this month from Senior Connections. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having.